Yeah. Doesn't seem to work at all. Do that, and do that, and do this. As I can. Stream now. Oops. Okay. All good. I'm here, folks. Uh, don't mind me. I'm just hanging with the cat. Um, why am I hanging with the cat? Because it's the only way I can get her to shut up. She's in a mood. Her name is Trickle. She adopted us. Had a fire going and no food in the house for cats. And she was so hungry that she ate rabbit food. The only thing about rabbit food is 100% garden. And cats are not vegetarians. They are more carnivores than we are. Right? So, hi. Hi. You're gorgeous. Okay. Um, anyhow, is this working? It's live. Okay. The reason I decided to come on live was a big part of my youth. Yeah, I hear you. A big part of my youth has been on trial, and it was hard actually. Nope, you're not going anywhere because you're just gonna sit there and whine. I know it's a pain in the butt. Wah. As you can tell, I'm not hurting her. Anyhow, she's just annoyed. Wow. So anyhow, Bill Cosby was found guilty on all three counts today. Being a child of the 80s, Bill Cosby was a huge part of my childhood. Alright, I'll put you down. Just don't whine, please. He was a huge part of my childhood. He, everything from Fat Albert cartoons to The Cosby Show, was a huge part of my growing up and, my classmates and friends. I'm trying to make my hair not look so gray. Um, anyhow, huge part of my life growing up. Loved that Albert show. Hey, hey, hey. Every Saturday morning we'd watch it. And I'll be honest, I never thought of it as a black show. I thought of it as, I'm trying to find a code. I thought of it as just a regular TV show. We had Sanford and Son. Didn't really, where I'm from and how I grew up, that I didn't consider these black shows. But Bill Cosby was a huge part of my growing up. And now this man, who a lot of us put on a pedestal, has been not only tried but convicted. Must be upstairs. Um, Convicted of sexual offenses is really hard for me to comprehend. This is annoying. Um, he he was everybody wanted him to be their dad, and not for the type of or the way they lived. It's just the way he handled situations. Um, the way he raised his kids. Uh, Theo was always out of line. Um, the other two girls tried their best. Uh, and there was always a really good moral to every episode of The Cosby Show. And then if we weren't inundated with, Fat Albert and The Cosby Show, you had pudding pops, Jello pudding pops. Now I had to laugh out loud. I just saw a meme on Facebook that um it says quote, "Are there pudding pops in prison? Asking for a friend." That's pretty bad. I feel bad that this person that we idolized, um, I told you she'd just sit here and line. She's staring at the door. I think she misses my daughter. I don't know. Go upstairs. Um, Anyhow, this man that we put up on such a pedestal, um, and in his comedy, there's one skit that I saw, because he was one of the first who had, comedy on television back in the day when HBO was not 24 hours a day and it was the only thing we had. Um, he described childbirth when he and his wife were having his child. He discussed her standing up in the stirrups and grabbed his lower lip and pulled it up over his head to describe how painful childbirth was, and he did the whole sound effects on the breathing technique, push him out, shove him out, way out. It was just, he knew how to take everyday things and really communicate them and make them funny. It was never a black white thing for him, at least it never seemed like it. Maybe that's the generation I'm from, that now we didn't see color the way people actually see it now or before. That's another interesting thing if people want to talk about it. People see color now more than they used to. And I'm wondering whether that's because we hid it before or because being PC demands that we make a comment about it. And I'm thinking the latter. Because, my nationality is, I'm American by the grace of God. I was born here. My family's been here for generations, both sides. One part of it's been here longer than most other families because I am of Native American descent. My daughter's named after my great great grandmother who came down out of Wisconsin and Michigan in what's now called the Trail of Courage. um, and moved down to Oklahoma on Potawatomi. My grandmother just didn't make it that far. She met my great great grandfather, who was an overseer. That's the best way to call it. Documenting those that were on the trail. He had stopped in the area where my grandfather lived, and he made sure they were provisioned and taken care of. He met her, fell in love with her. Her and her father stayed behind, what because my grandfather married her, and then we've got weird stories that I'm not so sure they're true, um, about her father not doing well with firewater. Um, they're interesting stories. I'm not sure they're true, but I digressed. When I was growing up, we weren't Native Americans. We were Indian descent. Um, we were white, we were black, we were Mexican or Chinese or Asian or things of that nature. We weren't so PC as to not insult people. And I think that's something else that maybe we could talk about. If you want to make a comment down at the bottom, and next time I decide to live stream, we can talk about that. Um, but anyhow, so now we have Bill Cosby, a man who a lot of my childhood um, was important, convicted of doing something that as a child I wouldn't have understood. And now that I'm older, in my 50s, I completely understand. And I have to admit that at first, when I heard about all of these charges that were coming up against him, I wanted to think, they're not true. There's no way America's dad could do this. But we also have to remember that America's dad is also a man. And he's also a product of the time period. And in the late 60s, early 70s, and the really early 80s, quaaludes was something that were used recreationally and not. I mean, I remember the first time when I was getting ready to go to a club, well, a bar, for the first time, the talk I got, and this was from friends, not family, was to never ever leave my drink alone. There's somebody could put a quaalude in it. It was, well, actually, they would talk about it putting a Mickey in it, which is actually a quaalude, which is a an anesthetic. Sorry. Side effect. Side effect of some of my meds. So anyhow, you always got the talk about, don't leave your drink alone. Somebody could slip you a Mickey, and they could have their way with you, and there's not a whole lot you can do about it because you can't prove it. That goes to, attest to the time period that women had to prove by being awake that they were assaulted or raped. They couldn't say, um, we feel like we are attacked or anything like that. They had to bend over backwards to prove that they were attacked. And that's a horrible thing. I'm sorry, I got a cough again. That's why I like the Me Too movement. because woman and some men have been put in situations that are sexual in a connotation, and they didn't deserve to be pressured that way. So now we have America's dad, proving that he is a man to those of us who grew up idolizing him and wanting him to be that dad on the block that we all hung out with, taking advantage of women. And, I don't know all the um, testimony that was in this trial. I do know that several years ago he paid one person off civilly $3.5 million and admitted in civil trials that he had used quaaludes to entice women to have sex with him. Um, so the criminal trial, you have to have a higher burden of truth beyond a reasonable doubt. So who knows what went on in this trial? I don't. Um, to get him convicted criminally beyond a reasonable doubt, guilty of accosting these women. I'm glad that he was convicted. I'm glad that the jury did their job and were able to set aside, unless there's a really young jury, all their preconceived notions of who Bill Cosby is or was, and saw him as a man and not America's dad, of the 80s, and were able to convict and sentence him to, that's confusing, um, able to sentence him or convict him um, of this horrible crime. Now the next part is the man's not young. The man's almost blind. Would it be cruel and unusual punishment to put him in the prison system? Because that's the next thing they have to do is um, uh, the penalization, the sentencing. There we go. Sentencing part of the the criminal trial. And I hope the jury thinks about this. And here's why. And it's not because it's Bill Cosby. It's because the man is elderly. The man is almost completely blind, and he'll never survive the prison system. His crime, I think they consider it nonviolent. I think. I'm not sure. Um, but it's been so long, which doesn't diminish the um, the heinous part of the crime. It's just, it's been so long. He is so elderly. The man is blind. It would cost more to care for him and make sure. Oh, I'm sorry, this is my mechanic. My car's in the shop for warranty work, and he's telling me now it's not under warranty. I don't have any money to pay him, so I told him he better fix it. So anyhow, I would suggest house arrest. I know it seems um some people would say it's diminishing the crime. I'm sorry, I keep looking up. I'm trying to think of the best way to put this. Some people think it's diminishing the crime because he's at home, he's not in prison. Here's the problem: the money that the state would have to pay out to make sure that this man's medical needs are met and that his physical safety is intact, um, is going to be a burden on the state. Now, do we want, because our prison systems are so overloaded, they are so expensive, even privatizing them makes them horrible, um, doesn't help at all. Do we want to spend that kind of money for this man's celebrity? Because he's not going to be in there overnight. He should be in there for years, probably the rest of his natural life. Now, I'm not talking about his quality of life. I'm talking about the money trail. When it comes to Cosby, think about the security they'd have to have on him just for the fact that he can't see. Now, I know here in Ohio, I live in the Central Ohio and Columbus, Ohio area. We have several prison medical facilities. Um, and they're not really made for long term. They're made for people who are very, very ill or people who are recovering from some kind of attack that may have happened while they were in the system. They're not designed for long term. I'm sure there are a few long term people in the facilities because they've been sentenced to life and they're getting close to the end of their natural life. They're having to be cared for. But in this situation, Bill Cosby's pretty healthy. It's just he's blind. Um, he's a man of international notoriety. And I hate to say it, there's probably some punk kids out there affiliated with a gang or two that would think that they were getting an incredible amount of street cred and don't care if they spend the rest of their life in prison to take Mr. Cosby out. And that would be horrible. Um, so I hope that they consider, when it comes to the penalty stage, uh, this part of the weight that would be on the prison system. Um, the fact he is so well known, the fact there is going to be security problems, the fact that there are medical concerns that need taken care of. The man can pay for his own insurance. The man has a support system that will watch him because he, can't go anywhere really, because he can't see, to care for himself. He would have the financial burden for his medical needs. Um, so maybe they should consider um, house arrest, um, one that he cannot leave unless police escorted. Um, that's a possibility that's been done before, both publicly and privately in, various types of what's it called? Witness protection. They've done stuff like this. Um, maybe they need to just sit and consider that Cosby needs to be on house arrest. I know there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up in the next day or two when they start going into the penalty phase. And I hope that they consider it. If they don't, I believe they're doing an injustice. Um, will there be an appeal? Probably, because Cosby has a lot of more money than he probably knows what to do with. Um, so he'll probably appeal. Um, I just hope that they do consider some kind of staying, house arrest type situation. Um, because I think that would be the best as far as the financial burden on um, the state and the prison system. So that's kind of my little rant about Cosby being guilty. Um, if you like my little conversation, please have a comment below. Um, like, share, subscribe, thumbs up, hit the little bell over. Let me see where the hand is. Nope, over here. Yeah, over here. There we go. Yeah, the bell's over here. There we go. All right. Tell your friends about it. Maybe we can get a conversation going about Cosby or about anything else. If I'm full of it, let me know. If you're not learning, you're not growing, and everybody's got an opinion. And I'd like to have an open, honest conversation with you about yours. So, I try to get on here every couple of days and just chat. Um, you guys take care. God bless. And remember, keep smiling. Bye, everyone.